More than 1,500 years after Shakyamuni Buddha's passed away, his extinction, there lived a man in China called Chen Chen. It was prophesied that he would die at the age of 50. But by following the great teacher Tendai, he was able to prolong his life by 15 years and lived to be 65. Bodhisattva, never disparaging, also transformed his fixed karma and prolonged his life through his practice of the Lotus Sutra. The sutra says, quote, his lifespan was increased, end quote. The persons mentioned above were men, not women, but they prolonged their lives by practicing the Lotus Sutra. Chen Chen lived before the last 500-year period, so his change of karma was as extraordinary as rice ripening in winter or chrysanthemums blossoming in summer. In this age, it is as natural for a woman to change her fixed karma by practicing the Lotus Sutra as it is for rice to ripen in fall or chrysanthemums to bloom in winter. Hi, everyone. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, new subscribers, those who are just jumping on board or deciding to commit to expanding our Sangha. So essential for this Sangha to continue to grow. It's partly our Bodhisattva practice, isn't it? To introduce and support more and more people in their correct practice of Shakyamuni's teachings of the Lotus Sutra, albeit with the doctrines and insights given by our modern mentor, Bodhisattva Nichiren. Yeah? So thank you. Thank you for all those recurring, revisiting subscribers. Thank you all for liking and subscribing. Again, I don't know what the notification bell or icon, whatever, how it works into the algorithms, but anything we can do to promote this Sangha and these teachings and this resource of not only these videos, which are searchable on the home page in the middle of the page, that search little icon of the magnifying glass, yeah? Not the top search, that's all of YouTube. You'll be going forever there. There's plenty of information here, over 1,000 videos. It would take you a long time, years, to go through them all. So the search is helpful to help hone your searches. And for those who just want quicker answers, there's threefoldlotus.com with a page of many PDFs, downloadable documents, some links on the core study materials page, and also the ebooks, right? Very quick access to support documents to help you encourage and keep your confidence in your practice. Yeah. All right. So we're reading, as I was a moment ago, from a collection of go shows I've put into yet another book, trying to hone in on certain aspects of Buddhist practice that, when presented with the gargantuan library of Nichiren's writings, with their titles not referring to necessarily the subject that Nichiren is identifying in these letters, it becomes formidable and kind of off-putting, I think. It certainly was for me, when I wanted to research or do a deep dive into an aspect of Buddhism, as this book does in karma, one of the biggest, most obvious questions in Buddhism. So much misinformation and misunderstanding about what karma is, and our popular culture has inculcated the word into the old cultural religious stereotypes of, this misunderstanding of cause and effect. That if you do a bad thing, you'll get retribution. Even the word retribution is used by these authors who translate these words. That's not karma. That's not karma at all. Karma is simply the energy of life formation. It has no good or bad, right? Cause effect is something we do consciously. So we imprint our energies, our push, our momentum into a pre-existing karmic instantiation moment to moment of life. Our lives, life in general, everything's doing the same thing. And so when we make a conscious or seemingly conscious decision, we are imprinting an influence onto that massive momentum of karma. So karma is momentum. It's the energy of life, from which everything is formed. So there's no good or bad. There's no recompense. There's no retribution. Or words like we just read in the last video, repentance. That's just religious nonsense. What we do in Buddhism is active. We're never passive in Buddhism. That's one of the reasons our meditation in Lotus Sutra practice is an engagement of all of our senses, chanting, singing the concept of enlightenment, to enjoin it, to awaken to it. That's not passive. That's actively engaging with our Buddha-ness. This was the final lesson of Shakyamuni. You want to be enlightened? You want to awaken to your enlightened nature, to your Buddha? Then do it. Put the shoes on, get in the car, whatever. Just, this is how you do it. Not wish for it, not wait for it, not pray to it, right? I mean, it's in the language. That's why I'm always harping about these translations. Words like faith, pray, belief, retribution, these are all passive, waiting for something to happen to. That's not Buddhism. Buddhism is engaging, chant, active, cause effect, active. We are imprinting, practice, active, influence, actions upon, from here, right? As Nichiren says, never seek this Gohanzen outside of your self. Yes, we see words fall apart because we say, well, there is no self. We got to lose that self. Well, it's not the self itself we need to lose. It's our attachment to that self being our identity. That identification engine in our samsaric mind, it's born of not a bad thing. It's the chemistry, it's the biology, it's the physics, it's the formations of energy amalgamating into a self-replicating engine that builds life, which at every moment seeks to find a secure way to be, a better, if you will, environment. But the intelligence of our cells doesn't say this is better and that's not better, this is good, this is bad. It just seeks an environment in which to exist. Now, we can judge that as better or worse, but that's a samsaric judgment of identity. We are creatures built of maintaining our glorious experience of being. Now, at some point, we emerge a mind capable of observing this process. Now, certainly the mind should not be limited to this mechanical exegesis, right? This Darwinian engine of maintaining being. It's important. It's absolutely it's essential, right? It is the engine of life. It's karma manifest. Now, who's judging whether that's good or bad? It isn't karma. It's your mind. And as sentient beings, we run the risk of our mind completely being overwhelmed by this process and therefore attached to it and limiting our mind's scope of the experience of the whole thing. Not because we actively are stupid, right? We talk a lot in Buddhism as we read about stupidity, ignorance. Not the same thing, by the way. Right? Because not knowing doesn't lead to knowing. So we have to do something actively to grow knowing, grow our perception, grow our understanding beyond simply cataloging existence, which is samsara, which is, as Shakyamuni proposed, the source of all our stress and anxiety. Do I have enough of these? Do I need more of those? Do I own something? What am I if I don't exist as a collective of stuff? That's samsara. You got to know, that's the core, the essential insight of Buddha. That if I can just lift myself above the din, not get rid of it, it's gorgeous, it's amazing, but with my mind, now I can see the wonder of it. Remember an old analogy I used about being in the rapids in your rudderless little kayak, trying to avoid the rocks, going through this fast water, and right? It's chaotic. It grabs all of your focus. But what if you could have that experience, but stand on the shore of the rapids, of the river, and observe it? How much more secure would you feel? How much more understanding would you have of these rapids? So that's an analogy to tell you, with your mind, you can still listen to the roar of the rapids. You can feel the spray of water in your face, right? Maybe even dip your toe into it. Here we go with the eyes and nose again. It's allergy season. I apologize. Anyway, but become a witness and an observer, not to negate the physical world and all of its wonder, but to perceive it as non-personal, not happening to you, but displaying itself before you, for you to take in completely. That's the liberation from suffering that Buddhism talks about. It's a complete paradigm shift of how to observe this wonderful construct. We achieve that through actively chanting, using the tools of this scroll as a mandala to gain entry into our sentient mind of clarity. That goal of that mind, that's Gohonzon, and the clarity we achieve is Buddha-ness. See how all these terms fall into place when you properly understand them. And all of this is about experiencing, witnessing, and imparting support for that karmic engine, the engine of life. All makes sense? So Nichiren now, in this, what was the title of this Go show? Oh yeah, on lessening one's karmic disease, right? What is it called? On prolonging one's life, sorry. So he's using some Chinese ancient stories, folklore, and giving examples. And in this one, he's identifying male versus female. Remember, Buddha was revolutionary in many ways. Shakyamuni, I'm talking about. His redefinition of karma was hugely problematic in his time. And many people very inspired by his take on karma, something they suddenly could gain control over when they'd been told for history in their cultures in India that karma was something that was stamped onto them. They had no choice. When Buddha came along and said, no, there's karma that results in you, yes. But the fact that you are a slave to it, that the universe is happening to you, that karma is happening to you, that's not correct. You're engaged with your karma constantly, moment to moment. You can influence it. Some karma is weak energies of formation that you can easily change, influence into a positive or life-nurturing way. Other karma is very complex and very profound. It may take much more effort and may actually, to alter it, to imprint upon it, may require seeing some kind of not so enjoyable stuff, right? But all of that is what we tend to term obstacles in Buddhism, but they're not happening to us. The fact that we can see them to change them is quite an opportunity. And so in this paragraph, he's addressing women, and he's saying, the women and men, there's no difference. Karma's karma. The sex that your body has in samsara, that's just different sets of karma instantiating. Your ability to imprint upon it, experience it, that's no different. Wow, what an egalitarian thought 3,000 years ago. Yeah, a lot of people had reasons to really despise Shakyamuni. He was breaking their mechanisms of control and governance. So it's no wonder people tried to kill him, injure him, shut him up. Right? We see this throughout the history of Buddhism, because Buddhism is only concerned with one thing, the absolute truth, and our ultimate ability with our minds to engage directly with it. How amazing is that? Wow. We're not locked into a box. We actually are participants in our own lives. Revolutionary. Still today. So we'll continue. He says, when I chant and meditated for my mother, I not only was her illness cured, but her life was prolonged by 4 years. So there's a lot of these statements. Again, and Nichiren is employing the very same mechanisms of expedient means. And sometimes it seems like hyperbole, and in some of these stories it obviously is. But using the conscious minds of his students, in us, you and I, in the modern times, sometimes communicating an idea, language being what it is, requires these concrete statements. Like, I prolonged her life by 4 years. Well, if your mother was still sick, constantly ill, and all she thought about it, as well as you, about her impending doom and death, if you were able to nurse her back to health, whether you did it with medications or meditation, chanting, trying to provide in every moment of your day as well as hers energies of healing. And she, through her own incorporation of those energies, those influences, imparts on her own karma the strength to overcome her illness, and she gets better. And you enjoy your mother's company for 4 glorious years of no illness. You could say, well, that's coincidence. But if you and your mother are both of a mind to enjoy life, free from illness, to enjoy each other's company with the support of knowing we've come through an illness and isn't life grand, wouldn't that 4 years seem more special, more intense, wouldn't you be more grateful for that 4 years than if you had, alternately, she somehow gets through the sickness and you spend those 4 years as almost like suspended animation waiting for her to get sick again. Oh, we made it. We survived. Oh, gosh. Oh, man, when are you going to get sick again? It could happen. We need to do this. We need to do that. What are we going to... And spend your life worrying about her next illness, or coming through that illness feeling like we beat it. We changed a fundamental aspect of your life into a positive. Now look at all of this positive we can experience together. Isn't it wonderful? Isn't every moment precious? Wouldn't you rather live your life that way? Would that not change the way you experience your own life as well as hers? I'm going to remind you again, Buddhism is about the mind, attitude, and intent. Now you can say, Sylvain, that sounds a lot like just positive thinking. Well, maybe the idea of positive thinking came from trying to understand how Buddhism works. So the choice becomes simple. Do I live as an animal, just surviving every day, looking to protect that survival by hook, or crook, right? By manipulation, by hiding under rocks, by chasing after stuff, trying to feel secure and never quite feeling secure because the next moment everything changes? Isn't that samsara? No matter how well you may be at doing it, maybe you're wealthy, maybe you think you've conquered everything. You're still stressed out, aren't you? And this is Shakyamuni's proposal. No matter what your economic, social status, wealthy, desperately poor, sickly, or healthy, all forms of human animal existence are based in survival and therefore constantly under stress, because survival is attachment itself, right? Attachment to continuing to survive. But our mind doesn't need to be locked into that game. Our mind can perceive the game of games. And by so doing, even though that continues, wealth, poverty, health, whatever, with an attitude in the mind that sees beyond the game, the attachments of the game, many of those attachments can evaporate and become just experience, observation, not affecting your mind, rather your mind affecting your life. as Buddha said, as Shakyamuni Buddha said, instead of your life controlling the way your mind works, let's get into your mind and let it drive for a while. Let your mind drive your experience of the life that you're in. And you might find that stuff that you find so stressful and anxious-ridden doesn't need to be. And that frees you to feel much more fulfilled and in control, and lessening your, and this is where the authors would insert karmic retribution, but it's not karmic retribution, it's just karma. But the way it instantiates moment to moment can be affected simply by a change in your attitude. Oh, look, instead of, what's happening? It's a different shift of perceiving life as it's happening, moment to moment to moment. Being instead of being. This happened to me. This is happening now. Oh, look at the way it's changing. Oh, move away from that. Right? When you're in it, you can't perceive moving away from it. You're just desperately clinging and trying to get through it. But if your mind is separated from it, then it becomes a condition whose tendencies you can alter. Change your mind. But that opportunity doesn't even appear to you when you're in samsara, when your body and your physical reality is controlling your mind. It's a shift, a reversal. What do you want to call it? Nichiren called that getting to that transition, our goal, our most highest goal, Hanzon, is the perception, the mind, the mental, the ninth consciousness, whereby we experience everything as it is, rather than judged, attached, hanging on to, identifying with, right? We identify, if you will, using the same word, Buddha, the nature of all energies. I keep wanting to say opportunities, but manifesting moment to moment to moment to moment, right? Potential. Thank you, brain. Potential manifesting moment to moment to moment, instead of potential making bad, making hard, making. That's samsara, that making. Perceiving everything with equanimity. There is no better, bad, good, right? Equanimity, it's all just the engine of life. Stop attaching yourself to things and causing yourself stress and anxiety. It's a very simple formula. Sounds simple. Now you too have fallen ill, and as a woman, it is all the more timely for you to establish steadfast resolve in the Lotus Sutra, the Myoho Renge-kyo, and to see what it will do for you. Try it. What can you lose? In addition, you can go to Nakatsukasa Saburo Saimon Nojo, or Shijo Kingo, who we know from previous letters, is well practiced in different kinds of healing medication. He's kind of a doctor in those days, who is not only an excellent physician, but a votary of the Lotus Sutra. So he can bring both to bear, his knowledge of your physical well-being, along with his knowledge of how to use chanting the teachings of the Lotus Sutra, the Myoho Renge-kyo, to empower your healing. So obviously this letter was written to a woman who was sickly at the time. Obviously, or most likely wrote to Nichiren for advice on how to proceed. Nichiren continues, life is the most precious of all treasures. Something we easily take for granted and forget, yeah? Even one extra day of life is worth more than 10 million ryo of gold. Do you see how profound the appreciation for the engine of life Buddhism is? The difference is that rather than sitting back and be awed by it, Buddhism engages with it. Not passive, active. The Lotus Sutra surpasses all the other sacred teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha's lifetime because the lifespan chapter, where he made it obvious that this isn't a special condition of a certain solitary being. This is the nature of life, is the nature of life. It's the same for everything, sentient or insentient, but certainly for us with a mind, it's simply a choice to make because it's extant. All we need to do is use this very amazing mind, the treasure tower, to experience this amazing, precious thing that we're experiencing moment to moment. The greatest prince in the land of Jambudvipa would be of less consequence than a blade of grass if he died in childhood. If he died young, even a person whose wisdom shone as brilliantly as the sun would be less than a living dog. So you must hasten to accumulate the treasure of resolve and quickly conquer your illness. And now this is an interesting play in words because Nichiren is identifying not just as she's ill, but she's manifesting this illness as part of her karmic freight train. This is what confuses a lot of people. And they would say that sickness is bad karma. Well, it's not bad karma, it's just karma. It's possibility instantiating. And the instantiation, well, it isn't great. But guess what? You have a mind, an observing mind, an engaged, active mind. And you can alter your physical manifesting of that karma. You can say, take that karma and lessen its expression, causing me physical harm, and use it to bolster my health. You don't need to know the chemistry and the biology of making more T cells, strengthening your immunity system, and all those things, because we know from science this is what doctors do. What do medications do? They take a situation that is causing us disruption, and they put in chemistry, right? Antibiotics, whatever, to bolster the body's ability to fight, to conquer this condition with its tendencies and alter its tendencies to achieve better conditions, more to our liking and comfort and duration, keep us going in life, right? This is medical science for the last couple hundred years, has been about extending life. So Buddhism is no different. It just says that you don't need to understand all of that. If you have the right attitude and your mind is running the physical reality that you're instantiating moment to moment to moment, you can affect it. It's not magic. It's active engagement with the very energies that are manifesting in you. It's active engagement with the mind, which actually leads every cell in the body, doesn't it? It can, if you choose to. That's not our natural samsaric position, but that's the point, isn't it? I could ask Shijo Kingo on your behalf, Nichiren continues, but while some people would prefer to be approached by an intermediary, others may feel it reflects a lack of earnestness on the part of the individual concerned. What an interesting insight. Do you understand what Nichiren just said? He said, I can ask for you, but isn't it more meaningful if you ask for yourself, right? Doesn't it do something different in your mind to build up the courage, the humility, to ask someone for help directly? Right? How many stories have we written in the world, in the history of the world, movies, TV shows, books? Please ask him for me. Please ask her for me. I'm afraid of rejection. I'm afraid of it, right? All our fears manifest. And the person being asked might feel, as Nichiren is pointing out, oh, she couldn't ask me herself? He couldn't ask me for himself? He had to send you to ask me? How disappointing. Do they really want my help? Or are they just looking for pity from others? Is my help going to even be taken seriously? Or is this just more mechanisms of suffering? Sound like familiar modern stories, don't they? So I'll read it again. Keep this in mind. I could ask Shijo Kingo for you on your behalf. But while some people would prefer to be approached by an intermediary, oh, he's being so generous here, others may feel it reflects a lack of earnestness on the part of the individual concerned. He's disciplining her very kindly, very compassionately, yeah? It is extremely difficult to fathom another person's mind. I have experienced such difficulties on several occasions. Shijo Kingo is one who would feel offended if the request came from anyone but the person directly concerned. He's a samurai, they deal in absolutes, yeah? So in his case, it would not be advisable for me to intercede. He's just trying to encourage her to work for herself, which is what... Isn't this the core lesson of Buddhism all the time? Take control of your life. Just ask his assistance yourself, frankly and sincerely, without an intermediary. Just do it. What do you have to lose? When he came to see me in the 10th month of last year, he told me how grieved he was about your illness. So she's been sick a long time. And Shijo Kingo feels terrible about it. But he's not going to go on his own and go, here I am to save the day. He's not Mighty Mouse. He, as a samurai and a Buddhist, understands that if you're going to achieve any kind of change, certainly for betterment in your life, it has to come from you. Nobody can hand it to you. Oh, my bad cramp, sorry. He said that you were probably not overly concerned then because your illness was not yet serious, but that it would surely become critical by the 1st or 2nd month of this year. So he's not unaware of your condition. But if you don't ask for help, then his help won't matter, ultimately. His words deeply sadden me, Nichiren says. Yeah, saddens me as I read it, yeah? He also said that Toki depends on you as a staff to lean on and a pillar for support. So she has dependents, people who count on her. He was very concerned about you. He is a man who never gives in to defeat or who greatly values his friends. This is starting to get heavy now, right? Everyone's relying on you to take a stand. Do you want to be healthy or not? Sounds a little harsh, but he's doing it in a very compassionate way. you have to want to do for yourself. This is the central theme of Buddhism. No one can do it for you. If you're unwilling to make efforts to heal yourself, it will be very difficult to cure your illness. One day of life is more valuable than all the treasures of the major world systems. So first, you must muster sincere resolve. But I don't want to be sick. Really? This is the meaning of the passage in the 7th volume of the Myoho Renge-kyo, the Lotus Sutra, that states that burning a finger as an offering to Shakyamuni Buddha in the Lotus Sutra is better than donating all the treasures of the major world systems. Because treasures are things owned. They're not you. Do you see? A single life is worth more than the major world system. You still have many years ahead of you, and moreover, you have encountered the Lotus Sutra. If you live even one day longer, you can accumulate that much more benefit, reward, enlightenment. How truly precious life is. Is Nichiren not being absolutely crystal clear here? And we'll end this letter with, write down your name and age yourself, and send your messenger with it to me so that I can chant and meditate to the forces of the universe, of the sun and moon. Your son, Iyobo, is also extremely worried about you, so he will offer the recitation of the verse section of the lifespan chapter to Gohanzon, to those powers of the engine of life. Yeah. Respectfully, Nichiren replied to the lay nun. There's background in here. We can go over that. I'll just read through it quickly. It may be helpful. I don't think it's necessary to understand the message of this letter, though, right? He sent this letter in 1279 to the lay nun Toki, the wife of Toki Jonin, whom he had married after her first husband died. When Toki Jonin became a lay monk, she became a lay nun, calling herself Myojo, or Wonderful Entity. This letter explains the principle of changing karma, or destiny. I don't see that. See, again, that's translation bias. Karma is not destiny. Karma is just the engine instantiating moment to moment of your amalgam of energies expressing themselves. That's all it is. It's not a destiny. It's just the act of instantiation of life, of conditions and tendencies. Their trajectory is constantly affected by the imprint of your conscious mind. So it's not destiny. It's constantly forming. Now, are you going to get in there and drive it, or are you just going to let it run rampant? That's not destiny. Buddhism characterizes karma as neither fixed nor unfixed, or as either fixed or unfixed, depending on whether the time when one is to receive the reward or the fallout or the instantiations of karma is fixed, right? Are the tendencies and conditions constantly present, and are you feeding into it? Because you're actively participating whether you choose to or not. And this is the point. Do you start to actively make a choice and direct your energies? Or are you just going to wait and see, and because your attention is more fascinated with that gook over there, your tendencies and conditions are going to move that way? Well, you're not driving. You're still observing, but you're not driving. But you're a participant. It's very important to understand this. And obviously the translator did not, so I'm not going to waste more time on that. The next one on offering daimoku through the mandala of wonderful and difficult to understand law, Myoho Renge-kyo. That probably is a longer document, but we'll save that for the next video podcast. Thank you so much for participating. If you have questions or something I said made you uncertain, please use the comment sections for this. We all can benefit from your question. If your question is too personal, though, or if you think, well, I don't want to seem stupid in front of everyone, I understand. Buddhism raises a lot of interesting questions, doesn't it? And so, in that case, email me directly. I will respond. tlksylvain@gmail. Yeah? I will respond. And what will likely happen if your questions inspires certain things that I thought, well, maybe I haven't talked about that enough. I have so many videos. I'll do the search for you in the magnifying glass of the homepage of this, and I'll search for key terms, and I'll find that subset of videos, and I'll pick one or two, and I'll send you those links. I hope you know that you can do that for yourself, though. And if your question is unique, I'll probably make a topic of video discussion about it. Because if you're curious about something I haven't articulated, then chances are many others are. And there's no other purpose for this channel, this endeavor, the website, the books, than to encourage and to bolster, support your practice. Remove all doubt. That's why we're doing this. That's what the Sangha is for, yeah? So thank you. Thank you for participating. Remember to like and subscribe. It's so important. And if they're helpful to you, they certainly are critical to the survival of this effort of mine. Buy an ebook, buy a print book. Patrons through Patreon and PayPal with money donations. It's essential. And we're a small Sangha, so every little bit is greatly appreciated. So thank you ahead of time for that. Take care of your health, and I'll see you in the next one, okay? Thanks again, and bye for now.